Vote.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Village Trustees to order on Tuesday, October 10th at 5:02.
All right, so I want to thank the boards for organizing this. This is, I hope, a tradition we start of kind of getting everyone together before the budget really kicks off. I'll get the department heads in here, let them go over their accomplishments from the last year, talk about the challenges going forward, and just give kind of the boards a sense of information behind the numbers that you'll see in a month or so, and also kind of get some general information on what the departments do and what they're planning to do going forward. Just so we have a better idea of what we're looking at down the road. So I asked all the department heads to present for about 5 to 6 minutes, kind of on their FY23 accomplishments, their outlook for FY24, and then their challenges and goals going forward from FY25 and into the future. And then leave about 5 to 6 minutes to the board to kind of ask general questions themselves on those topics that got brought up. Just as a reminder, this is kind of a very general conversation. So there won't be any discussion of line item budgets or anything of that stuff. That'll be for the future. This kind of just a sense to get the conversation going, get the public aware that we're talking about this now, and kind of going from there. We are on a tight schedule. The trustees have a meeting at 6:30, so I'm hoping to keep every discussion to under 15 minutes to kind of give everyone some equal time as well.
Just to set the tone, what should we expect at the end of the meeting? We should feel like we're ready to ask questions next time.
So you should have a general understanding of what the ask will be in the budget, what the capital request will be going forward, and kind of general tone of what each department is right now, whether they're fully staffed, need more help, what they're seeing in their municipal work themselves, and also hopefully for the boards to have an idea what their budget goals, priorities will be, that we can then report back to the department heads as they craft the budget for next year. With that being said, I think the first on the list, town listers. Come on up.
Okay. Well, let's see. Tim put this together with the rest of our help. For our accomplishments for 2023, we successfully secured a appraisal firm to do the reassessment in 2025. Starts in 2025 to 2027. We also, along with zoning, got a mapping project done. So all of our maps are up to date now, which was a huge undertaking. And I believe they will be on our website soon. So our outlook for 2024 is to increase valuations as prices rise, need more education funds. And 2024 and beyond goals, successful reassessment for sure is going to be a pretty big deal starting in 2025. So we need to be prepared for that as listers.
Can you kind of give an overview of your department? How many people are in there? How are you?
We have 3. We are, as everybody knows, elected. I'm up for re-election in 2024. I don't have a petition yet, but see. We work Monday through Friday, 8 to noon. Our doors are open. We've been doing a lot more site visits recently. We do send out sales verification letters if we see something that is looking really kind of off. And then we do a site visit for that. We've done 1 site visit for flood related. That was out on East Woodstock Road. And I believe they have filed paperwork with FEMA and everything else. So, which is pretty surprising, only 1 that has asked us to come out and do a reassessment because of the flood.
And what's the CLA?
Our CLA right now is around 71%.
Can you explain what that means?
Common level of appraisal, it should be close to 100. And that goes with the sales and the difference between what we have it assessed at and what it is sold for. So right now, we're seeing a lot at like 50% sales. And as Carrie can attest, and I'm sure everybody else here, there isn't a lot on the market. There hasn't been quite as many sales, but they are still as what we have assessed at. And that's kind of statewide.
Questions from the board?
A question. You said that for 2024, you're looking to increase valuations. On what? On those homes that are sold?
What we do is we do maintenance, yes. If it's like what I said, we do a sales verification letter, we go out and take a look. If it's a really crazy amount.
Yeah. And what companies did you hire for the reassessment?
Off the top of my head, Jeffrey, I don't,
It's different than the last one.
yes. Yes, we did. We got several proposals. They drew up a contract. We had the board look at it last year, I believe. And then we sent it off to Bill Dagger to look at. I think it went to the select board. It probably didn't go to the trustees. So we also have a separate one for the Woodstock Inn and Resort properties. So
Thank
Summit Company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How much do you anticipate that the reassessment cost?
250?
And you've been swirling money away for that, right?
Yes. Yes, we all have been. Yes, the town has been also, yeah.
And am I right? One of the things you do, like to adjust the grand list, is if someone has a house and they're marketing it for sale, saying it's 5 bedrooms, you only have it as 4.
Correct.
You can adjust it that.
Yes, and us,
And just because somebody paid more.
correct. No, we're not, no, we've got to have,
Yep.
that's sales chasing. We
Right.
can't do that. We also adjust for permit work. So if somebody put a garage up, something like that, a pool.
Other questions?
We also have a lot of current use stuff that we're doing, which is a very big deal for our office, the current use, keeping up with all that and evaluations and working with the state. That's a lot of it.
Do you anticipate that you're gonna be, your budget's gonna be similar to last year, higher, lower?
Higher, a little bit higher.
And is that for appraisal stuff or is that for just?
Just general. I think Tim's got it pretty well booked out here. What he has asked for, pretty much across the board, education, salaries, operating supplies, the whole, I think he increased.
And this is continuing education for everybody, just. to
Yeah.
stay on track.
Yeah. Yep.
We've all.
Oh, yeah. Yep. The state offers quite a bit, so we do quite a bit that doesn't cost anything. We also have things on our website that we didn't in the past that we pay for the grant. The property record cards are now on the website and the mapping. So. We have fees for that, yes. Yearly fee. It comes out of our budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the town clerk.
Afternoon. I guess probably most of you have been into my office at one time or another. Certainly all of you have at least had an oath administered by me, so you probably have an idea of what we do down there. generally, we're the custodian of the permanent records for the town of Woodstock. Vermont and Connecticut are two of the only states in the country that maintain land records at the town level. So many municipal clerks don't deal with recording land records, but here in Vermont, we do, and that's quite a bit of what we do in our office is devoted to that. We administer all the elections for the town of Woodstock and maintain the voter checklist. We have 2,800 and some change on the voter checklist at any given time. We issue marriage licenses. We deal with liquor licenses, vital records. We get birth and death certificates. We file those and keep permanent records of them here. I also, in addition to serving in the town clerk's office, I'm on the board of the Vermont Municipal Clerks and Treasurers Association, where I serve on the executive board. So that's been a good opportunity to network with other town clerks and treasurers throughout the state. I guess that's a general overview of what we do. We have 3 in the office, so I work full-time. Mary Riley and Carol Wood are both assistants, and between the 2 of them, we have an average of 40 to 45 hours a week. So it's essentially just a little bit more than 2 full-time people in the office hour-wise. Next year, it's going to be busy. We'll have 4 elections. We'll have the annual town meeting. We'll also have the presidential primary. We'll have the August state primary, and then we'll have the November general election. So that will take quite a bit of time and effort from our office. I guess one of the things, I've been in the office as assistant clerk and now as clerk for 15 years. And I think Seton and I were talking about this the other day, just as a point of interest. You know, all the land records are recorded in books in the vault. And in the 15 years that I've been there, I have filled 200, let's see, I had some statistics written down. I have filled 81 books in the land records. And that may not sound that impressive, but by comparison, volume 81, Fred Doubleday was filling in 1985. So it took 205 years to put as many records in the vault as we've done in the last 15 years. So if that gives you any idea of the volume of work that we do. We've been scanning and digitizing our records. I started that program several years ago when I first took over as clerk. And we presently have the state mandates that we keep a hard copy. Every town clerk has to. So we need to have a vault and we need to keep the permanent archivally stable paper records. But in addition, we've got microfilmed copies that we've been producing for many years that are kept in the state archives in Montpelier. And in the last 7 years or so, we've been scanning and indexing the land records. And we have about 84% of all our land records scanned and indexed in a redundant system. So I guess that's a brief overview. I'm sure I'm leaving some things out, but if you've got questions, I'm happy to.
And Charlie, do you go over the money that you get from the?
Oh, no, I didn't. So part of the fee structure, when we record land records, as Susan has some experience with this, the statutory fee, and most of the things that we do are set by statute, so we don't have a lot of latitude in what we charge for copies and dog licenses and recording fees, that kind of thing. Anytime a record is recorded in the land records, it's a $15 per page fee. And of that, $4 goes into a reserve fund. So we put $11 into the general fund, $4 is squirreled away into a reserve fund. So when we need to, say, expand the vault or we need to conserve some books, we have money available to do that. Last year, I did have a volume of the minutes of meetings, I think 1820 something to 1860 something that was in pretty poor condition. So we had that sent out and conserved. And that was about $3,000 and some change to do that, but we had money in our reserve fund to accomplish that.
Any questions for the clerk's office?
Yes,
Are the digital land use records, are those just accessed by your office or do?
they are right now. If we had a little bit more space, I would like to have a at least a public terminal available so people could come and search the records that way. I've considered putting them online. There's considerable expense with that, so I've been sort of holding off on that at this point. But no, right now it's just an internal system. Yeah.
And you run a one-year term every year?
The town clerk is elected for 3 years, so I will be up. I think I ran last year, so maybe in another 2 years.
Any questions to the clerk's office?
Keep things moving. Thank you.
Next up is fire EMS, but I don't see the chief here. Oh.
I can leave. Oh, you get dressed up one time for not you guys. No, it was for you guys, no. All right, so for you that don't know me, I think everybody does, I'm David Green, Chief Fire EMS. Have been on Woodstock Fire Department for 34 plus years. Chief now since 2014 or 15, forgive me, I'm not good with my numbers. So Woodstock Fire and EMS is a combination department. We have full-time and call staff. We respond to all fire and EMS calls in Woodstock, medical calls in 5 other towns, and some fire calls in 2 other towns that they have no access to get to. So we service certain section of roads where it would be ridiculous for other fire departments to come around. So some of the accomplishments this year, thankfully, the building is just about done, 99.5% done. I'm waiting for heating season to come so we can turn on the boilers, make sure that's good, and sign off and get this building done. So hopefully that happens really soon. Air packs, as you know, we've just finally replaced all of our antiquated air packs, so we are good to go for quite some time. We also ordered a new ambulance, which should be here hopefully in another 12 or so months. Just for a piece of information, these things are now back ordered 3 to 4 years for ambulances. I just found out the other day. So that's very interesting. We won't need one for a while, but hopefully it gets better when it comes to us. So those are really some of the big accomplishments throughout the year. But what we do besides medical calls and fire calls, we do CPR classes, we do ACLS, PALS, which are acronyms for different levels of classes. One of the bigger things we do is we're a liaison between the elderly and infirm who maybe aren't taking care of themselves or getting the public help that they need from either state or federal organizations, which in the long run will save us money because we won't be responding to their houses often for different medical needs. So for you guys that don't know, we do lots of events. Insurance has changed over the years. Almost every event, public event, is required EMTs or firefighters on staff. Pretty much from the start of May to it was this last weekend, we have either 2 or 4 people out every day at events all weekend. And this is from GMHA to mountain bikes to roller derby, if you guys even know that stuff goes on, ice hockey, football, you name it. We do lots and lots of events. And we do charge for those. There's a AFG grant coming up in the future here, which I wish to apply. And the only reason I'm saying that is I have applied for the last 4 years for the air packs and we're denied every year. So it's really the only fire department grant out there. And I always try to take full advantage of it, but it is extremely competitive. Assistance to firefighters grant, yes. Yep. So with that coming up in the future, and the other big thing we're working on, and I'm expecting very soon and looking forward to, is our ISO inspection. So that is the insurance company underwriters that send the company out and inspect the fire department, how we operate, our manpower, response times, our equipment, how the water company does on hydrants, how the communications does. All that gets thrown into some sort of thing that they shake up and they assign us a score. So in 2013, we lost either 1 or 2 points, I can't remember. And if you're saying, why is that a big deal? When we lost those points, I got some calls from downtown customers. Their insurance went up $600 for a half a year because of that. So $1,200 a year because we lost those points. So we were doing everything we can to gain those and more points back. It's a very long and can be costly road. Obviously, we picked the low-hanging fruit first on training and adding dry hydrants and stuff like that, and then it becomes more involved from there. So that'll be a never-ending quest of ours. We are a 6-7. The best you can get is a 1, but those are Boston, FDNY, stuff like that. You won't see that around here. But we keep working towards it, and we'll do the best we can. Some of the biggest needs I have right now, as everybody knows, personnel, both full-time and part-time. I just had 2 full-time employees give their notice this week. So it's going to be a struggle to fill those positions. And part-timers, in all reality, I could use 15 more. That's how low we are right now, and keeping things staffed and running to be able to keep 2 ambulances on the road guaranteed, which 2 may seem a lot to you guys, but it's not unusual for us to have 4 or 5 calls at the same time. Thank God we have a good neighbor to the east of us, Hartford, that really pitches in and helps us, and we do the same. But those are my big needs, employees and employees housing, because I can get the full-timers here, but they don't live in this town, which would help a lot if they were able to come in and backfill or just coverage for 2 hours while other ambulances are out. As far as my budget, yeah, I don't know yet. I'm still working on it. Nothing out of the, extraordinary. Some things I want to run by Eric and get his blessings of. But yeah, I'm not asking for anything major, just our typical capital reoccurring. Let's keep our trucks in good shape, so forth. Yeah. So, Eric, did I forget anything? No? Okay.
Any questions for US?
David, what's a comparable? You said 6 out of 7, 1 is best?
Yes.
6, you're around 6 or 7?
Well, you get 2 grades. You get one for hydrant districts, and then one for rural districts. So the village is a 6, and then the town around that is a 7. Yes.
How does that compare to other towns?
Well, give me one you like to compare it to. So if you take Bridgewater, which is a 9-9,
Okay.
and no fault of theirs, but they're very small and
Give us
they
an
have no
idea.
hydrant system or anything. I honestly don't know what Hartford is. I've never asked, but I'm sure, they're probably like a 4-5 or a 3-4 or something like that. Yeah,
So it has to do with the infrastructure that exists.
it does. The whole totality of the picture, everything dispatch does, the water company does, and the fire department does. So whether your hydrants are the recommended 750 feet apart, if you don't have hydrants, do you have ponds within so far? The response time from our station to our farthest point, there's stuff we can't change that we automatically get deducted for, unless we add stations or stuff like that, which is not realistic. But there are things in our control, training, the upkeep of the hydrants, equipment that they have a very specific equipment list that have to be on every truck. You have to meet them, how you maintain them. I mean, the list goes on. it is very involved. I enjoy doing it, but it's very.
But we were at a 3 back when.
No, so we were 6-7 now, we lost 1 point. So the village lost 1 point, which brought it up to the 6.
6.
Yes.
Uh,
Yep.
Why did you lose the point, you know?
A lot of reasons. The big one was the ladder truck. That is a big hefty point because all the 2- and 3-story buildings, the inn, the Spooner barn, that was the biggest hit. So we're trying to find creative ways to get around that. I mean, at some future, we will have to talk about that. But that was our biggest hit.
So it's not the hydrants at this
Nope.
point?
But it's a little bit, there's no real one thing you can point your finger on, except for that ladder truck. But the rest of it is just, you know, they change the rules and expect more. Yes, yeah, but that was our biggest.
And what, personnel, is it just everybody's looking for personnel?
Yeah. You can't go to a website on fire departments and not see everyone in this state is looking. I mean, Hartford's looking, Lebanon, Burlington, South Burlington, Rutland, everybody's looking.
And so outside of, you said housing is a challenge, are there other things that are more within your power?
Not mine, yours. But the big one is people are upping pay to get those people and retain them. Whether there's any truth, and I will be putting a FOIA request in for it, but I am told the 2 guys that left both went to the same department and they are making 20,000 more per year. Yes. So I don't know if that's true, but I am investigating it and we'll have a report in the future for everybody if we need to start thinking a different way. So,
How many full-time employees do you have now?
including myself, 10. Yep, so that guarantees 2 people per day, plus 2 more people during business hours, which was myself and the assistant chief. And at night and on weekends, we run the 2 full-timers plus part-timers. So 2 full-timers at night and 2 during the day. Yep. And that doesn't include having people at events. So we could easily have 10 people that work during the weekend.
How do volunteers play into it?
Well, I call them call staff.
Okay.
Yep. So anytime, so there's really 3 levels. I don't like to call people volunteers anymore because anytime they step into the building, they get paid and they are expected to meet actually all the same requirements as my full-timers. That's part of our policy. The only difference is they can be singly fire or singly EMS. Okay. So if they want to be if Greg wants to be a firefighter, he goes and gets a thing, and anytime he steps in the building because of a fire alarm or a car fire, he gets paid $17 an hour, 2 hours, and then he goes home and does his thing. Whereas my part-timers, they're cross-trained, so they can do either fire or EMS. Yeah, and they get paid at a different rate. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Matt, for the ambulance to go back?
Yeah.
Can I take your picture?
If I can take yours, Jeff.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
It would be useful for me going forward if, when we're talking about personnel, we refer to FTEs in terms of the head count of that's planned and then the head count that we have. So, because I don't know how long any part-time or anything is working, and just to get a sense of what the manning or the personing is for any department. We talk about that. 60 full-timers, well, you know, I mean, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Chief Function?
Hey everyone, Joe Swanson for the Woodstock Village Police. We contract this police services for the town. So for FY 23, we had a bit of a tumultuous spring as far as staffing. We're back on track. We've had a strong summer. And fall, in spite of still being understaffed, although we are in a position to be fully staffed soon. You know, interviewing and recruiting a sergeant, and have a part-time officer that's in the pipeline to be a full-time. So we have 6 FTEs on the police department, and then an unspecified number of like part-time, but they're really per diem employees. They don't cover regular scheduled hours, just what they sign up for. We have started dispatching this summer. It was kind of around the time that Robbie left, a little bit before, for the Windsor County Sheriff's Office. So that has brought in some revenue without increasing dispatch costs. I'm not really familiar with the contract, but I have talked with Beth, who's our dispatch coordinator, about some ideas going forward, just about how to like take what we have as a starting point and just work out any of the kinks and just kind of make it a smooth process. And they have provided us with some equipment too at no cost to us. That's like computer and monitor that's due to be installed, but just working on some of the licensing for the software. And Robbie did finish out FY 23 under budget. So I can't take credit for that, but I would like to let you know that. As I mentioned, for FY 24, we are in a position in the coming months to be fully staffed, but we won't really be have everyone on the road working together probably until June. We have one officer that's on light duty because she's pregnant, due sometime this winter, so probably be back to work after maternity leave in March. And in the interim, in February, of an officer that is going to the full-time academy, and when she returns in June, I expect by then to be, if everything goes according to plan, to be well staffed and in a good position, at least for next summer. So for 24 and beyond, I'd like to continue with training with the other 2 officers going from level 2 to level 3. Level 3 is kind of the, right now what we look at in Vermont is kind of the gold standard for an officer, but it's not what's required at the outset of a career, or in the beginning of a career. Equipment wise, we're in pretty good shape. We talked a little bit when we talked about the cruisers about upgrading the body camera plan, and maybe acquiring a few more tasers as more officers get trained. But it's too early to have numbers for what the cost would be at this point. They did email me suggesting I move early because costs are going up, but how much of a sales, reaching out to make a sale as far as instead of reaching out to for us to save money, there's a little bit of each in that. But that's kind of what I had for right now. What are your questions?
What do you, so we have 6 full-time right now?
Yep.
And what are you looking for in fiscal year 24?
I'm not looking to add any to that. One of those FTEs is a sergeant, and one is a patrol position, and one of the part-time officers I'm training right now is in the pipeline and to be full-time. He is currently living in Springfield, Mass, where he's from, and is moving in October to a place or actually like a week to a place in Quechee where he got an apartment. So I didn't want to make him full-time, commuting 2 hours plus for at least 40 hours a week.
You're still looking at 6 full-time, not
Yeah.
7.
Right. mean, if you want to offer me 7,
No,
I can use them.
question.
And what, talk about some training specifically for 2 officers to go from level 2
Yeah.
to level 3. You obviously have the officer going to full-time
Right.
doing that training. What are there, do you anticipate any other trainings? I mean, I know that you guys do target shooting on a regular
Right.
basis.
So we have a required 30, or used to be 32, it's I think now 30 a year per officer. It's,
30 hours.
yeah, it winds up probably most officers being between 60 and 80 per year. The level 3, which is what is the full-time academy, which is what Officer Turco is gonna go to in February. And then Officers Tarleton and Aurora will be going at some point sequentially after that, or maybe together. And that's a 16-week training program. The state pays for the training, but we have to pay the salary.
And are there any, I know you've done, football training for a while.
Yeah.
But are you looking for any other officers to have sort of those niche things?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be, as far as, who it is will play out in time, but, some of the training is like, if they're doing the SIU, which is currently me, but I'd like to delegate it to another officer in time, requires like a basic forensic interview, which is how to talk to a victim and how to interview a victim, and then advanced forensic interview down the line. Also interview interrogation training is, that is in addition to what the academy covers. It's kind of like a detective position without being a detective, because we can't take someone off the road. We're not in a position to do that and have someone dedicated full-time to investigations.
One other question, just as you're talking about training. I know when we talked about whether or not the town and village were gonna pass cannabis, there was a conversation about, does it make sense to have someone here trained because we have it? Because that's a whole other special thing. Is that something you guys are interested in, or are you?
It's not something that we really are in a position to explore right now.
Okay,
um,
just staff wise,
Yeah,
because they have to get sent out to other places.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right,
Thanks, Joe.
thanks. I'll be back.
Mark? Public Works?
It's been a little busy week for myself. I have all my notes in my phone. I didn't have a chance to type them down. So I'm not fully staffed right now at the highway department. So my accomplishments for this year, I am here. This is my 11th month with my position. It's been a pretty hectic summer with the flood. I think I handled it really, really well. We just got a new excavator with the town. I haven't had a chance to train any of the employees with it. My full-time equipment operator, he's out. So he's I had a chance to have him in there. I've been out in the machine myself, working. So I think it'll be, hopefully Everett will be really happy with it when he comes back. It's a little different. I've never operated a rubber tire excavator before, so it's a little different than a track machine. I'm sure you can relate to that. So I don't have a whole lot of seat time with it, but I'm getting the handle with it. So it's a great machine. I think it's coming on board in the beginning of the winter. It was a little it was a challenge learning the town in the beginning of the plowing season, so I did pretty well with that. I learned two different plow routes myself, my plow route, and we lost an employee in the first of the year. I stepped up and I took care of that route, and I pulled one of my guys from wastewater. He handled my route in the meantime. It was a little bit of a challenge. We hired somebody, it didn't work out. Covering that plow route. And I've tried to get as many of the grants with the state, as many. It seems like it's a little bit of a challenge. When you apply for them, it takes months for them to approve them. So I did get a grant for Prosper Road to overlay that with fresh gravel and overlay the asphalt aprons on Route 4 and Route 12. My intentions were, I was able to get I wanted to do them, and the flood, it kind of postponed all that. So the state gave me I think another 11 months on that. So hopefully I'll be able to get it done next summer. So my outlook for 24, a lot of the infrastructure of the town roads, like the culverts, the drainage, it's a lot of the old culverts are rotten. If we continue to have a lot of the rain that we had this summer, the volume of the water, we're not going to be able to handle it. It's been pretty standard in the town to replace them with 15. They've been trying to replace them with 18s. With all the flood damage, I'm not dealing with 18, so I bumped them up to a 2 foot, as many locations as I could. If they're completely plugged, it's time wise, it's not cost effective to try to flush them out. So I was just ripping them right out, replacing them. A lot of the drainage in the village, it doesn't make sense how or the thought process, how they install them. A lot of it, it's bigger and it necks down to smaller into the main system. All that does is build pressure, and it has nowhere to go. It should be the opposite. They still have a lot of the clay tile in the drainage system in the village. So all it takes is a couple of roots. If you have a piece on the ground, if you throw a rock at it, it breaks. So you can only imagine if there's a tree growing next to it, the root balls just crush it. My outlook in the village, hopefully fix a lot of the sidewalks in the village. I fixed, it was an ongoing issue. It was actually on my very first interview with Seton and Joe and Tom. There was a woman that tripped in front of the bookstore, and I witnessed that coming here to my first interview. I saw the woman trip on an expansion joint on the concrete, and she did a face plant right into a parking meter. I just fixed that, I think 2 weeks ago. So it makes me happy. I feel great when I get emails that were forwarded from Eric, how thankful they are for the Public Works. Hopefully in 24, the personnel be fully staffed for the highway department. A lot of the operating supplies for maintenance on equipment, it's extremely expensive. The cost of tires on trucks, we have to run chains on the tires. It's kind of there's no way that we can go out and plow without having trains on the tires. Once plowing season on the tires, they're completely gone. So, you know, the cost of rubber is through the roof right now. It's, you know, a set of tires on a 6-wheeler or a 10-wheeler, they're roughly $700 to $900. I'm really happy with my crew on at the wastewater. Cody is he should be receiving his certification for his wastewater permit. I think a couple of roads in the village, High Street. Hopefully we can get that paved in 24.
Any questions for Mark and W?
How many people do you need to be fully staffed that you
Okay,
don't have?
So I have, I just hired about 2 months ago, a gentleman to work with Chris Barr in the village. So I have 2 guys that, it's Chris and Nate seem to be a really good pair together. I need 5 guys in, at the highway department. So right now I only have 3 in myself. So I've been going out and working as much as I can. So
Does that mean you need one more?
no, I need 2 more,
2 more?
2 more.
So one gentleman is on sick leave, the other, another one is an opening.
Okay, so one opening.
So we can fill one opening now, the other one we can't.
Thank you, thank you.
Can you fill, is it possible to hire somebody just? while the
Like,
other person's on sick leave, or is that not?
I have somebody in mind that I haven't asked him yet. Maybe do like a short term, or, you know, work over the winter. It's really hard to find help. You know, not that I'm looking for other opportunities to work, but I go on Indeed like daily to see what is comparable out there. You know, all the other municipalities in the area, they're looking for help. So.
And is it a matter of everybody's trying to top salaries and top benefits?
I think, I mean, I chat with people. I think we're right up there with the going rate. You know, it's definitely more appealing. You know, we have a beautiful highway garage. We have nice equipment. We have excellent benefits. It's just the matter of people, you know, if you get comfortable in your job, for them to, you know, take that leap and come on board with with Woodstock. So it's you know, I joke all the time, and, you know, working in Southern New Hampshire and Mass, if we had an ad on Indeed, we would get 50 or 75 people that would apply for it, you know. So I did have a job posting on Indeed over the summer, and I got like 5 or 6 all summer that applied. And I think 3 of them were one was from Pennsylvania. He had experience, but, you know, it's completely different. The back roads of Woodstock opposed to plowing in Pennsylvania, you know, that's quite a difference. So.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Steven, which one are we doing?
FY 25 budget. PDF.
Hi again all, Stephen Bauer, Director of Planning and Zoning. Just looking at kind of our FY 2023 in review. Kind of the main accomplishments is we not only met our budgeted amount, but we blew it out of the water, specifically in the town, we more than doubled the 14,000. Which if you remember last year's budget season, I said, I think 14,000 is too low. That's setting the bar too low. I think we can generate more revenue. In FY 23, we did not change the permit fees. This is just simply, I think, a change in collecting the actual fee. So the village is same, about 7,500 over budget that we generated. A huge accomplishment is we added Stephanie, who is reestablished the 2 FTE in the department, which it has historically been for the last 25, 30 years. And so she has been incredible. We added her at the end of April, so just a little bit, just towards the tail end of FY 23. So we're actually doing some housing modernization amendments that we're going to be presenting to the trustees here in about 30 minutes. But I would be remiss to say that wasn't part of FY 2023. I started on that first week of FY 23 with that goal that we would be putting forth these zoning amendments, and they're just now finally coming forward. So that whole fiscal year has been focused on that, and I will say that is most likely, since passing zoning, the most overall impactful zoning amendments, assuming they go through, to the town and village of Woodstock that we've ever passed. So hopefully we can say that here soon. Going to FY 24, how we're doing so far. So at the close of the first quarter, also beginning of FY 24, the new permit fees went into effect. We also established that 60-40 split that we agreed to in the last budget season that made a little bit more sense. In that first quarter, we are already in the town we're above on pace at just over 15,000. Just to remind everyone, we budgeted 14,000 last year. So we've already in the first quarter surpassed what we budgeted last year. And then the village is right on pace. It's about at 6,500 with a couple of large projects that are coming down the pipeline that we have not collected fees on yet. So the village looks much more promising, but I don't want to say that until it hits the bank account. So we're doing well there. Other things in FY 24, we're working on a plan of by the end of the fiscal year, pass new short-term rental regulations. Why we're talking about that in the budget process, because that will have a large impact on our fees that we are able to generate. So I don't want to speculate about how we're changing those and what exactly the fee will be. We have many steps to go, but that will certainly add some additional revenue. So part of the big thing that I'll bring up in this budget process, but we want to do the work on identifying, and we've already done some of it, is figuring out a permitting software that not only works for us, but works across the town. That will have some sort of fee, but we can make that much more efficient. And that's just from experience in years and working with other permitting software to make life more efficient on staff, but also just redirect where we're allocating a lot of our time, so that we can get more out of the salary that we're paying. And that's where we go to FY 25 and beyond. So really, it's the same thing as last year, and the same thing if I had been here for 30 years, I would be saying, we have a huge need for planning. We really need to redirect. We act primarily as pretty much a zoning department. We are the planning and zoning department, but we do very little planning. Pretty much the planning that Stephanie and I are able to accomplish is the little bit after I put the kids down, before I'm able to pass out on, what other things we need to do as a community and understanding where we need to go. So that is where I I will really be talking about reallocating primarily where my time is spent as a salaried full-time employee, guiding that more towards investigating some of these really big things that we keep talking about. A comprehensive rewrite of the zoning regulations, both for the town and village. We're working on a little bit of that, but it's just very hyper-focused on how to provide more housing. There's other problems as well. The town and village merger, that has come up probably every year for the last, I don't know, Jeffrey, 20, 30 years. And so I think from our office, the idea and to the planning commission is to actually fully investigate that, eventually come to a report that we can feel more comfortable as a community saying, yes, let's go down this route, or no, let's go down this route. But right now, we just don't have the time to do that. That would probably, I would say, take a couple years of full investigative work to really come through a full report. But it's something that I think as a community should do. Including infrastructure investment and planning. We're working on more housing. Where are we going to get the water? What is the sewer capacity? What do we need to build? How are we going to pay for it? All those things come under the purview of investigations that we launch out of my office and with the planning commission. Economic development. We have a wonderful EDC who does wonderful work, and we work directly with them a lot. But not as much as I wish I could go to every EDC meeting and subgroup. I just can't do that right now. So that's just some of the things when talking through this budget and adding what would be the next part of it. If you remember, is adding one full-time staff member. So that would have a department total of 3 FTE. That is similar to what we talked about last year. And then we think about other things that comes with not only that staff change, but also what we currently have. There's a lot of change in the planning field. So we have a lot of continuing education conferences, trainings, legal classes that we take a lot that are offered free or very cheaply through VLCT, but some of them you can't get in Vermont. So that's part of it. Short-term rental solution. What that means is the software that we use. We're going to go through and, we plan to recoup that from the revenue that is generated from the licensing fee or however we end up doing that. But that's just one of those costs that I put in here. And we already talked about the town-wide permitting solution. The quotes that I've been getting is somewhere between 30 and 40,000. But I don't plan that on only being planning and zoning. That can help town-wide. And then we just passed a town plan, but we really need to work towards a comprehensive town plan, including some things that would help in the knowledge of the historic district, the design review, and there are some consultants out there that are very helpful with that. Obviously, we'll plan on paying for the chunk of that with a municipal planning grant, but there could be some that's left over or to be able to match. That's a total cost estimate, but that's kind of the things that we're looking going forward.
What would this additional full-time staff, what specific tasks or jobs would that person have to investigate?
Yeah, and so it's hard. I think last year I had planned on that person. The idea was to have that person become the full-time zoning administrator. So take over a lot of the zoning that I do to allow me to do more planning. Now that we have a full-time person in Stephanie and we're understanding and she's doing trainings and we're working together, I think it's not so black and white. So I think a little bit what I see probably most like looking for would be a little bit taking more what Stephanie does as kind of more of an administrative assistant, and then dividing more between Stephanie and I, how we split up the planning and the zoning and the investigation and staffing different meetings. But that's where we're at today. So that's kind of what I would imagine. That's the direction to go.
Other questions? Board?
Roger?
Roger?
Do you think there's additional room in the, fees?
Yeah,
Are there statutory limits what you can do?
so not really. I mean, the statutory has the vaguely of reasonable. I think some of the help in recouping what that full-time employee would be doing would be allowing us to actually do a little bit more enforcement as well. We've talked about that on the short-term rental side. Not that we're trying to have everyone come in compliance. But if you don't have a permit and you didn't pay a fee, you're not in compliance, and we didn't recruit our work for a fee. So some of that kind of goes hand in hand. So it's not necessarily a violation fee, we brought someone into compliance, and that's how we received the permit fee. So some of that would help as well. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Finance? So the first big news we have is, we hired a new finance director. He's on, day 7 today. Robert Densmore, he comes from the States. He has about 10 years experience with the States. A degree from Champlain College. So far doing a great job. We've entered into an agreement with, NIMRIC to provide ongoing support to train him on NIMRIC, and also then to train him on bank reconciliations, and kind of how municipal government finance works and how it differs from the state finance system. So he's doing well there. Let's see what else. We ended the year with both the town and village and an unofficial surplus for both town and village. Unofficial because we don't know the audit yet, but barring something weird happening, we should end the surplus of both of them. What else? So it's kind of accomplishments, just came in February. It's been a lot of turmoil the last few years. So I think that one of the goals is trying to get us back on track and have some stability financially for the municipality. So that's one of our goals, and we're hoping to work towards that with Robert on board, and some movement internally of officers and kind of get people closer together financially to kind of see what we can do to make it more efficient and effective. Some of the challenges we're gonna have going forward is, putting the books in order, kind of get the general figure up to date and understandable, and make sure we know where all money is, what the money is being spent for, and how best to allocate resources going forward. One of the big things I have for this year is to find out what our undesignated fund balance is. The select board members with the audits, they were telling us $1.2 million. You couldn't tell us where the $1.2 million was, and what money we actually have saved and what that might be used for, will allow the board to make very good decisions and how the best to spend taxpayers' dollars. So that's one of our big goals. The other goal is, and I think today was kind of the start of this, is creating budgets that actually reflect the departments and what their needs are, not just what has happened every single year in the past. And kind of work with the department heads over the next year or two to kind of really figure out what the department actually needs, not only today, but also going forward. I think you heard today a lot of people talking about where we're at today, but also where they want to be in 2 or 3 years, and how can we really support that and find out how we'll make sure that it's not an emergency when it happens, and we can plan for these things going ahead as we go forward. And the last challenge I think we have is just, inflation and what that means going forward. How is that going to impact us? And the deferred maintenance, throughout the town and village, and how is that going to impact us too with rising costs? I think one of the hardest issues to budget for is those emergencies you don't know are going to happen. And when you do, suddenly you open up the street, you open the sewer, and you find yourself looking at a $200,000 project that you haven't budgeted for. So we're really trying to find a way to work with that, have a capital plan that actually works and speaks to what Woodstock needs. So that's a lot of stuff financially we have to do, but that's what we're working towards this year and ongoing. So with that, happy to take any questions.
And might not be far away, not from it yet, but since the floods and with FEMA, and there was just who paid for what and when, seemed a little chaotic.
Yep.
So not that you've had a second to take a breath, but do you feel like you have some lessons learned from that? So the next letter, the next whatever, you feel a little ready, or do you know at least the direction, like, do you know what you need to learn or what structures you need to put into place so that we can say, okay, we know that when there's a flood, we need to automatically put money into more trash cans, or DPW needs, overtime money or whatever that is.
Yes and no. I think one thing was when there's emergency, you just have to do what you have to do. And, like this emergency was different from Irene and when, in this case, we were lucky our costs weren't that high. And so we had the money in the bank to support that cash flow. We didn't have to get a loan or anything to cover the total cost, and ideally get reimbursed from FEMA before the end of the fiscal year to help us with that. But I think having undesignated fund balance and have that money sit somewhere, so if there's an emergency, what money you have you can tap into without actually altering anyone's operating budget or having to go get a loan or charge interest rates. So having that money set aside, knowing it's there, is always good. I would recommend, as you do a capital plan, is have money set aside for almost emergencies in the DPW budget. So if there is something that comes up, you have the money there. If not, it rolls over to the next year. So just you have that money already budgeted for, so you don't have to worry about something going wrong and then trying to find the money on the mattress.
What did Robert Densmore do, Chip?
Accounting,
He was an accountant.
yes, that's his degree, yeah.
He's got a degree in it.
Yeah. So he didn't teach it, he went there. That's where his degree was from.
Oh, that's where his degree
Yes.
was from. Okay.
But he went,
was accountant for who then?
he was working for the state.
The state.
Yeah. So he worked at the state for a number of years.
So I have a question. So we had all of these department heads talk about, for the most part, about also needing more FTEs
Mhm.
overall. So have we done some kind of rationalization about what the total ask is overall? And as part of that, are we planning to take a look at the rest of the departments and rationalize whether in some areas you might be overstaffed? I don't know, and maybe reallocate some of that money, or, reallocate resources if that's even possible. Maybe not, somebody might not be able to plow the roads in the highway when they have a desk job, but
Yeah.
Can we take a look at that? Can we see what the numbers
Yeah,
are as a whole?
Yeah, so when the departments submit their original budgets to us, we'll have that ask of what the total number is above and beyond what it currently is. So, if, I think Chief Green said he has 10 full-time firefighters. So if he asks for 12, we have 2 extra plans on, we can get a number of the total is. And then I think it'll be a discussion between myself and the boards of where the money is allocated. If there is any money allocated for more FTEs, and if so, how is that money best allocated? Is it to which department? Is it shared between different departments? So that's a conversation that we'll have ongoing as the budget season continues. When it comes to reallocation, yes, we can look into that. I do think, publicly, I've said this before, I think we are pretty skeleton staffed as it is. So there's not a lot of movement. If someone's out, you feel that person being out, even if they're out for a day or two. Internally in the office, we have been looking at shifting some things around. Nikki Nurse has taken on some HR responsibilities. So trying to do some of that stuff. But we can look at and I think the finance committee is looking at this a little bit as well, what trends are going on. So what is a budget from the finance department in Woodstock compared to Hanover, to Norwich, to Hartford, and seeing how those maybe can be compared to each other. And then if we find a place that we are overstaffed, if we can reallocate resources, great. If not, we'll have to have a conversation about how best to deal with that. So that's a long way to say a lot of things may happen, but I don't have an answer for you right now.
John has a comment.
I just add one thing, what specific, that was sent out from the finance committee, Eric, Eric's already back. But when we go through our meeting with them, with the departments over the next 15 days or so, one of the questions we're asking them, what if you had to cut 5% of your budget, how so which is, and there is at least one area where we have done some benchmarking on costs. It's not with respect to headcount, but it will show as an example how we can use benchmark in the future. So those are at least some of the 5% question will happen this year's meeting. I don't know what the answers are gonna be.
So a couple more things. So one, I know you mentioned that with taking a look at inflation and rising costs. Why is there a concern that inflation is going to continue? I mean, on your part.
So, I mean, I think typically I've always witnessed when prices go up, they very rarely
Come down.
I've had time before. And I don't know if Woodstock has done this, but what I've seen in my experience is operating lines always get level funded. So you got fire dollars 3 years ago in office supplies, you get fire dollars this year, fire dollars next year, because it's already been justified. So you don't have to justify a second time. But also to go up, you have to make the justification. So department heads will say, well, I will increase this line because I know it's already approved, but I'll ask for another person or something else. So kind of figuring out what things actually cost and what they could cost and what departments actually need is another question. You know, there are lines that they don't use, but there's money there. But so they don't take them away because they know that money's sitting there to use for something else. So we're really trying to find why people need the money, but also making sure department heads aren't going over budget due to no fault of their own. You know, like I think David and Mark talked about buying tires. Price of tires are going up, but the budget line we give them hasn't changed in a year or two. You know, so right away they're buying 5 new tires and they're over budgets just to keep up the day-to-day maintenance. So how can we look at those budgets and make sure that they actually have the money they need to keep the trucks fully, you know, operational? Because once you slack on that, then you're slack on the next thing that happens to the truck, and suddenly you have more expenses for the vehicle because you haven't kept up on the maintenance. We're looking at ways we can do that and make sure we're giving them enough money. And it won't be perfect. The first few years, it will never be perfect, but making sure we're trying to figure out how best to budget for them.
So I never asked this question before, but it's when you're working with the budget, right? Or once you set the budget, are the line items fungible? If I have 20,000 in the line item and I don't use it, can I move it somewhere else, or you're not allowed to do that with municipal?
So you can. So what I tell the department's heads is whatever the citizens vote on the budget, that's the budget. Despite what revenue is coming in, despite what is going on, if you're allocated $100,000, you can't go over $100,000. As the year gets further along, if I see, okay, you know, we were short-staffed in DPW, so we have $150,000, and we really need to spend $75,000 on, you know, I'm trying to think, there's a theme of we need money to cover something else. I can say, okay, that's $75,000 from DPW. In my head, I'm moving over here. Mark and I will talk and say, hey, Mark, I need $75,000, you know, that has to move over here. And then he won't spend that money and move money that way. So we do that when we need to. Okay. I try to let the department heads go up to the budget as much as possible to spend the money. But I'm always aware of where the money is and we move it. Then it's that conversation with them. And it's a conversation of, hey, this year we're taking money from you, but next year, maybe we're giving you money because you need it. And so we do move money around. It's just the bottom line budgets where we end up. Okay. And then also as we get closer to the year, if I see revenues coming in higher than we projected, and there's an emergency, we need to send money, then always allocate some extra revenue to cover something too.
And last question.
Yeah.
So with these surpluses that we will have,
yep,
is the thought that we're going to use those monies for the contingency that we're trying to build up now?
That would be my recommendation.
We started this past year?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay.
But of course, the trustees and the select board can vote as to how they choose. Any other questions? No. Okay. I think, Ray, you want to have an executive session to discuss something with both boards?
Yes.
Where are we gonna
Full one? And is this, right, this is personnel?
Yes.
So we have to make motions.
All right.
I move the select board, move into executive session.
Second.
Just a second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
You probably had the biggest backpack in school.
Dude, that was that hard. I like to make all the proper citations.
Okay, go for it.
Okay,
Everybody-
so trustees, I
Yeah,
move-
you don't mind.
Yeah, you got a small.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to, make a motion to move into executive session, under one VSA 313, in order to discuss personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Is there anything else? Is there anything else to come before the trustees? No. In that case, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn from this joint meeting, at 6:21. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you're adjourned.
I would ask for an adjournment,
Motion
for the select board,
I move that the select board adjourn.
there a second?
Second,
Favor?
Aye.
aye.
Is adjourned.
I like what you made it.